Jaspal, let me perhaps ask you what your customers are thinking. Are you seeing among your banking customers that there is a move towards an inertia towards ASEAN 2015, or are your customers also still scratching their heads and wondering what's going on?
I think our customers are very happy and really, as Kishore said, counting on ASEAN as the modern miracle. It is the most resilient part of Asia today. And the benefits are obvious. You know, if you take ASEAN as a bloc, it is the seventh largest economy in the world. It is 600 million people, third most populous bloc as well. However, I would say that the business community is somewhat disappointed, and our clients within that, largely based on the expectations. You know, they were all expecting 2015 to be the date, and somehow they don't see enough traction. And I think the reason for that is really two or three. I think given the crisis that we're going through, there is a risk that the national priorities will overtake the compulsion. There isn't really a compulsion mechanism for the ASEAN. Also, given the disparities between the nations as part of the bloc, clearly there is catching up to do in that sense. And because the investment is to the lowest common denominator, you have that challenge.
Could you perhaps give us a specific example of where these disparities are or where those disappointments lie?
Well, banking is the obvious one I would give you. And clearly most of ASEAN is extremely well advanced and progressed. But Vietnam and Myanmar would be the two exceptions where banking is underpenetrated. But we have to be conscious, and we keep telling our clients that these are very new economies. You know, you're talking about Myanmar as a market economy of 2 years and Vietnam of one of 7 or 8 years. But they're such attractive demographics that they have to have the potential to fuel ASEAN. And our own research suggests that ASEAN can triple its GDP in the next 3 years only through urbanization. As some nations in ASEAN catch up to the urbanization of Singapore and Malaysia, Indonesia, etc., will all pick up, and we could see huge growth there.
Now, John, looking at this from a multinational perspective, looking at this from the United States, one of the reasons for why ASEAN is being promoted so heavily as an economic bloc is because individually the countries may not have the critical mass to attract investment from companies such as yours. That by positioning it as an economic bloc, a single investment destination, there is a greater chance of competing with India and China. But let me ask you, do these disparities that Jaspal talked about come into your thinking? Do you still see ASEAN as individual markets which are not integrated? Or has the board of GE also made that leap and said, yes, ASEAN is one community?
Well, I think that the first point I'd make is we've been investing in the individual countries for a long time. So the existence of a trading bloc, I don't think will necessarily change the way we think about investment opportunities at all, except to the extent that it should augment GDP growth and create a more favorable climate overall. So that's certainly positive. But I think in our world, the balance we have to strike is around building global strengths and delivering them locally, and there will always be local requirements, local differences between Vietnam and Indonesia and the Philippines and Myanmar. And so we'll always be striking those balances and making the trade-offs required to do that.
So we shouldn't be worried if there isn't that level of awareness, if there are still boxes to be checked, if there is still some disparity? No?
I think we have to, I think this convergence will only occur if we and the governments, we have to respect the differences. I think there will always be cultural, political, societal differences that we and other investors have to respect, even as these countries come together. And I think our job is to figure it out in that context. And I don't think that the outcome of this is going to be a homogeneous anything, and it doesn't matter.
Serge, as the entrepreneur on the panel today, what is your pragmatic view of ASEAN from the member which is arguably the latest to join the economic fray?
Latest and probably the weakest. I would like to preface by saying that I think I definitely agree with Kishore's point that ASEAN is a miracle, ASEAN is great, ASEAN is good. There's no argument about that, because in the big picture, ASEAN is good for everybody in ASEAN. But I would also like to echo His Excellency the Minister's words about the fact that if you drive probably not even 50 miles, maybe 10 miles out of Yangon, and you ask the guy on the roadside, what is ASEAN? And he'll give you a blank face. That's the first thing. The second thing is, we talk about ASEAN integration, and we actually don't know whether we are going to integrate, or at least the vast population doesn't. The vast number of businesses doesn't. A few government officials may. So there's a lot of concern about what is this zero tax? How does it really affect us? Does it benefit us or does it hurt us? There's no answer. And anything that has no answer, clear answer, is actually quite counterproductive. I think we have a lot of work to do to actually understand and explain what the integration of ASEAN actually means to everyone in Myanmar. Given the fact that when you are negotiating a pact among equals, the chances are that everybody will benefit, give or take, and it will all come out to be good. But when you are negotiating a pact with very despairing strengths, it's like you put Muhammad Ali into a ring with a lightweight and say, have a game. It's really not a game anymore. And this is our concern. Where do we stand as the newest, probably the weakest, the poorest in ASEAN, when this integration all happens? Are we really ready? So how many boxes can we check, or how many boxes will be left unchecked is what we're concerned.